So I've just started working with a new student who came to me because she was tired of feeling like an experienced beginner, playing bass in church. She was stuck at a point with her playing and just couldn't quite get how to move between the root notes within service and come up with those tasty bass lines and ideas and keep things moving. Has just been stuck at a particular plateau for a few years now. Now, normally I preface students with the concept of, this is going to take a few months to master. It's going to take a few months to really, really see progress. But this student saw the progress directly in their playing within days, not weeks, not months, but days. So here's what we did that actually seemed to have unlocked a new level of understanding for her. But, I've taught the lesson, so obviously I'm going to say that. So with her permission, I'm going to share this voice note with you guys.
I'm actually very surprised to see between Saturday and even today, just the progress. Using something as simple as those scale degrees is making me even a little more confident, like we were talking about earlier, moving in between the chord progression. So like before I would just noodle around, try to figure out what sounds good, but it's good having that starting point to say, okay, these are the scale degrees that work within this chord or this progression. And I don't know, that was a good lesson. It helped a lot. I'm using it a lot. I know I got way more things to work on, but so far, definitely so good. Thank you.
There you go. This was days, these results. And I had a video sent through and the difference is crazy. Jessica, you played some ideas. I was like, oh, I might have to take that myself. That was nice. That was tasty. And what we did here, we just got a simple framework. We've given a structure that everything else can be placed into. For so long, we keep guessing as church musicians, especially, and I'm going to talk about the kind of like black churches in general now, because that's where I have the most experience in terms of where people are at growing up and kind of learning and developing their skill. We're often self-taught and often do not set up anything where we're providing that solid music education to our community and don't use the necessary vocab a lot of times to be able to effectively explain and communicate that to people who don't understand. And we're often told just to use your ear or spend more time with the instrument, but that does not work for everyone. It's not an effective teaching strategy. And the key thing I want to get out of this here for you as well is that you don't have to keep guessing. You don't have to keep guessing. You don't have to guess what works, what doesn't work. And you also don't have to learn 10, 20, 30, 50 different scales to do this. It's exactly what she was saying here, where I've got the transcript in front of me. Was like before she would just noodle. In her words, she said, before I would just noodle, trying to figure out what sounds good. And that's still a useful strategy, but to have a framework of knowing what absolutely does work and then building from there gives you a whole different framework to go down. We shifted from random playing to intentional playing by understanding the number system of the chord progression. So knowing the chord progression and then knowing what chord formulas go with each number, because there's a specific chord formula for each number. And if you know what intervals are in each chord within the chord progression, you've already got a solid basis to work from that you can pull a load of tasty lines. If you just used chord tone with solid rhythm and kind of knowing where you're going to be able to lead that ear and the listener's ear in the direction of what's going on, you would sound great with good rhythm and rhythm that matches up with the feel of the song and the drums, which is something we've started leaning into now with the lessons. That gives you so much mileage that you forget your Lydian dominant, your this and that, and trying to work out the modes. Just get chord tones and intervals. That's where we started. We started with the knowing, first identifying the chord progression in the song, then identifying, right, okay, if that is a 4, 5, 6 progression, what intervals or chord types and therefore intervals are in each of those notes. And it's like, right, okay, when you work that out, right, that's what you've got to play with. Play around with that. See what you like. And that's what we did. And throughout the explanation, everyone's going to have a different area or a different part of that puzzle that is or is not going to make sense to them. And as soon as the right piece of that missing puzzle fits in place and is explained using the words and analogies that make sense for you, when that clicks, it's like a light turns on and you've just got a world of options now. And it's the simple framework that I envy, my kingdom-based framework of, I'm not the first person to come up with this, you know, this is what music theory has taught for ages, but perhaps how I explain it and can work out and identify where your missing gap is the difference between what I do and what other people do, because it seems to be working, because I'm not saying anything new, in my opinion, but it seems to be resonating with you guys. And it's simply learning the interval structure, learning it, mastering intervals. There's only 12 you'll ever have to learn. If you learn the 12 intervals and know what they sound like and know where to play them on your instrument, everything else can be learned because it's just patterns after that point. You then learn the number system, which is all based around the major scale, and then what chord types go with each number and what intervals make up those chord types. You've now got a framework on your instrument to play. And now all of a sudden, when you learn that, you learn the neck of your fretboard, you learn where those intervals sit and play. All of a sudden, when you are in a particular key and you know you've got a 3, 6, 2, 5 coming on, for each of those chords, the notes essentially kind of light up on the fretboard of where you can play. And like even now, I can envisage without that bass where those patterns, those shapes, those ladders all line up and flow. And I'm seeing where I'm then going next. And I can look at the next chord in my head of where that next light is going to turn on, so I can hit a note within the next chord I'm going to and nicely lead into that. This is where the fun comes in. And it's all from a simple framework. This isn't complicated stuff to learn. Difficult in terms, it's not crazy complex, but there's a lot of learning and memorizing and kind of feeling your way out these shapes. And you have to do it in manageable chunks. You know, if you try to learn the major scale from fret 1 all the way up to fret 21, that's going to be an overwhelming task. But if you just think intervals, there's only 7 of them. And then if you find your root note across different places on the fretboard, you can start from there and be like, oh, okay, well, I know the shape for a major third. I know the major third above and a major third below the root. So wherever I find the root note on the fretboard, I can also find the major third. And then we just build it note by note. Start with the major third and minor third. So you can see that. Perfect fifth. Throw that in an octave. That alone will give you plenty mileage to sound great. Throw in whatever the 7th is maybe. This is where it grows and it gets exciting, and it actually unlocks a world, especially for church players who want to sound good, who want to be effective in worship, in ministry. This is how you can do it. You don't need me to teach this to you. You can go about this and learn it yourself. But if you want to miss all the guesswork and trial and error and the back and forth and hitting certain plateaus, and actually you're like, I'm tired of guessing where my gaps are and I want someone to show me, that's where my one-to-one support comes in. And even without the one-to-one support, I've got a gospel community group, a free group for church bass players or people who want to play bass in church. We've got support in there. I've organized a course in there that will help you kind of have all the information you need to get through that. And we've got over 200 members from around the globe there. America, South America, Indonesia, Germany. I think we even had Japan signed the other day, and obviously the UK. So it's all building and it's all growing, and that's here to support you guys. If you're tired of guessing and you just want someone to point out exactly what you need to do next, book a strategy call and we can look at a one-to-one. You know, and it's like part of the quotes that Jessica said was like using something as simple as those scale degrees. And it really is that simple. Like there's only 7 of them, or at most 12 intervals to learn. Like if you can grasp the fact that there's only 12 intervals and everything else you learn about with music, with theory, is some kind of combination of those 12 intervals. If you just get that down, everything starts to open up, and it's key to his, look, Jessica, and I am not claiming that Jessica's now a pro-level church bass player that can rip the craziest solos in the world, but she's not perfect yet, but she's already feeling more confident, and I've seen the videos and she's already going to be so much more effective on the bass guitar in being able to fulfill that role of bass. And I speak to a few members in the group where they picked up the bass because there's been no one else to play it in their church, in their community. And it's like, you could be that person, but there's not been a clear roadmap set out for learning in church. I've certainly not seen it, and I've not seen it effectively work, but I think we're building that here. Everyone I talk to that does it, it's working for. Learning the intervals, where to play them, what they sound like, and what they relate to, the number system, all the kind of chords within the number system and the intervals that make that up. And then it's a case of, once you understand that, that's your framework that everything fits into, and then it's building vocab on top of that. That's the easy bit. The building the vocab is actually the easy bit. The building the technique, it may take time, but once you understand, that's the easy bit, and that's where it all gets fun. This is not theory you're going to learn and never use. This directly applies to chords and what you are going to play on a Sunday service. This is what you're going to use in real church settings. But for me, the biggest change has been how she now thinks about music and approaches songs in church, because now there's a strategy when a song comes on, rather than having to go with this idea of learning the bass line note for note and trying to play things that maybe she's not technically there yet for, and now has to give up learning the song. Is how she thinks about it. Now she's got a structure when she listens to a song. Cool. What is the number system? What's the progression here? Cool. I know I've got this progression. Now what can I do over this? What do I want to do over this? Okay, the bass player on the track plays this, but I'm going to play this because I can. And it's making it work for the environment that they're in. And this is a whole new mindset and confidence boost that you can have when you understand the framework of how these songs piece together and how the harmony pieces together to help you play. So the real change here really is not our fingers. Not yet. It will be, but not yet. The biggest change is how she thinks about the bass and the songs, and her ability to navigate that and learn it and dissect it and make something that sounds good, And because once that clicks, everything else follows, and you have a reason to practice. You have motivation to practice because you get it now, and you're like, okay, if I just work out what they did here harmonically and like rhythmically, I can come up with my own thing that I can actually play. And that's when you start being able to come up with stuff on the spot in songs that you've never heard, or the MD takes you in a completely different direction. That's what allows you to move with that and survive and keep up and even thrive within that environment of fast changes, key changes, because once you think of it as intervals, the key doesn't matter. Of course it matters. You need to know what key you're in, but the change of key isn't going to be a drastic change for you. So that's a quick summary of just the breakthrough we've had here. Like, I've been amazed myself at the speed of the progress, and that it never fails to amaze me that once you get whatever those missing pieces are in place, a light switches on and someone has a whole new world of possibilities and opportunities open to them. So if that sparked your interest, one, if you're not in the church-based community group, join. It's in the group, it's in the description. And if you're ready to actually talk about getting past this plateau and this place that you're in, if you've been there for a couple of years, the chances are you're probably going to be there for another couple of years without doing something different than what you're already doing. So if you're even just curious and want to have a conversation, book a strategy call. My goal is to work with people I can actually help, as has been shown here. And if you don't want to guess anymore, let's talk.